Hello, my name is Precious Wilson Gay, and I am a part of the planning committee for the 4th Shakespeare in Prison Conference. Today, I have the honor of introducing my fellow tribe member, my mentor, my family. She has taught me all that I know about community organizing and what it is to be a true intentional leader. It is my greatest pleasure to introduce Nia Wilson, the Co-Executive Director of SpiritHouse Inc in Durham, North Carolina.
Ooh, thank you so much, Precious. Everyone, on the count of 3, I want you to breathe with me. 1, 2, 3. Yes, there you are. Welcome. My name is Nia Wilson, AKA Mama Nia, AKA Ade Toyesi, she, her, queen, child of Ye Mioya, birth name Nancy Jean. I come from Wilsons, Wallaces, Dardens, and Sykes, through Ronald, Elmira, and Elmira. I am from concrete stairs, saltwater air, crab cakes, and Campbell's pork and beans. Mother of Heather and Paul, I am a warrior, a healer, a shape-shifting cultural alchemist, and I'm here today and every day to live into my purpose and fulfill my highest destiny. Ashe, ashe, ashe-o. I am so grateful to be here with you all today. And I want to thank the coordinators of this conference for inviting me to be in this space. What I just shared with you is a bit of an introduction from one of the SpiritHouse practices called Where I'm From. We use this practice to remind us of the things that have shaped us, the things that we carry in our bodies without conscious thought into every community, every building, every room that we walk into. Oftentimes when we meet new people, we begin our introductions with our places of employment, our job titles, our academic accomplishments, and other things that we've done. However, it is a cultural practice in many Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities to begin an introduction with the names of our parents, our families, our clans, and the places where we came up in. So we use this practice as a way to ground and remind us of who we are beyond our formal education and job titles. We use this practice as a way to be accountable to ourselves, our ancestors, and our communities. Today, I invite you all to join in this practice when you have time by documenting who your people. It could be your blood family. It could be your chosen family. Who do you claim? And who claims you? So I want to be clear. You can't claim Beyonce if Beyonce's not going to claim you back. Be proud of who your people are. Then document the land where you come from. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it taste and smell like? What does it feel like when you ground your toes into the soil of that place? Next, I want you to document when you came up. What was happening in the world, in your community, in your family? What were you watching on TV? What music were you listening to? What was happening in history at that time? Who was holding the power? You know, coming up under a Nixon presidency and an Obama presidency are very different. And that has an influence on who you are today. So in this practice, take some time to really study what you've documented, remembering that it is a living opportunity you are giving yourself to deepen your own understanding. Make the picture as honest as possible. Everything in our lives could not possibly have been great. You did not serve yourself, your ancestors, or your community by not examining all of your truths. Now, having the briefest access to this practice of acknowledging what we have embodied, we're going to take a few minutes to connect with what we are holding now. I'm going to take a few minutes to invite you into a through-line breathing meditation with me. What many of us have known for generations has become recently indisputable in the facts that we are born into a struggle, that we carry the traumas of our ancestors as epigenetic DNA markers. For some of this, in addition to that, we carry our own traumas from the lives that we've lived, the things that we have endured in our own lifetime. And sometimes these things have made our body almost feel like a hostile environment. What we know, though, is that we cannot possibly know love outside of ourselves until we love ourselves. And what we have come to understand is that a lot of that work does not happen, again, in our conscious thought. It happens in our bodies. And so in order to reconnect to this home, we breathe, we dance, we shout, we shake it out, and we return to this beautiful vessel that is ours. So now I'm going to ask you to sit up straight and put your feet flat on the floor. You can turn your camera off if you'd like, because it's my voice that I want you to listen to, or you can watch. I want you to rest one hand just below your throat and the other below your navel. Lower your gaze, and when you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And now, on the count of 3, breathe with me. 1, 2, 3. Just notice your breathing. Don't try to correct or adjust anything. Breathe and feel the vibrations of life flowing through your body. Now I'm going to begin this meditation with reading a passage by the brilliant Oracle sister friend and SpiritHouse tribe member, Dr. Alexis Pauline Gumbs, from her book, M Archive, After the End of the World. You should get this book if you have an opportunity, shameless plug. I want you to let these words wash over you as we begin to open up to our aliveness. And when I come to the conclusion of this exercise, I will read the passage again, which will let you know that we've come to the end of the practice. Dr. Gumbs says, "We could always see through our belly buttons. We just did not know what seeing really was then. We depended on the periscopes in our heads to warn us, to show us, to teach us the good. We walked in the world like defense towers, but that wasn't the real shape of it all. Remember when that person you trusted more than you trusted yourself told you to trust your own gut? The brain below your belly button that was always right. always right underneath the world. Where do you think she got her info? It was the half-blind poets and the beautiful remaining grandmothers who finally taught us to see, to remember, to be. On the count of 3, breathe with me. 1, 2, 3. Bring attention to your length, your place of dignity. Imagine for a minute that there is a cord beginning deep in your roots that travels from the rich, ancient earth through the bottom of your feet and extends through the top of your crown, through into the heavens. Let that cord pull you up. Straighten your back. Relax your shoulders. Relax the muscles in your body. Let your bones hold you up as they were constructed to do. Lift your head slightly and breathe. Feel for a moment what it's like to be in your length. Whether you're 5'4" or 6'4", this is your place of dignity. Breathe. Bring attention to the edges of you, your place of boundaries and your place of connection. Breathe and fill out your width all the way to your edges. So many of us have been conditioned to be small, to shrink, to not take up too much space. This shrinking has often been used to keep us safe. But today, even if it's just for a small amount of time, I want you to breathe and fill out your fullness. Take up all the space that is yours to take. Breathe. On these next few breaths, I want you to really feel your boundaries. Understand that the thickness or the thinness of your boundaries are within your control. Breathe and see if you can feel the energies in your room to the right and to the left of you. Know that even when you are in rooms full of people, your energies are attempting to synchronize with others, with the energies and the vibrations that others are giving off. Our hearts begin to share similar rhythms. Beyond the room, our energies are always wanting to synchronize with the energies and the vibrations of the universe. And yet, you are still wonderfully and beautifully you. Know that you exist in a space of boundaries and expanse, both at the same time. Take a deep breath and feel into your fullness, into your dignity, into the boundary that you are able to control, and into your connection to the universe. Breathe. Bring attention to your past, present, and future through line. Focus for a moment on the back of your neck, the small of your back, the tingling that you get sometimes right behind your ears. Many cultures around the globe believe that these spaces are where your ancestors connect with you. The place where your ancestors' whispers live. No one, none of us, got to this existence alone. Each of us has ancestors who chose to survive so that we can be here. If we go back 10 generations, that is over 1,000 people tied to your very existence. These ancestors walk with you every day. Their battle scars are the very birthmarks you were born with, so that you could know them, so that you could remember them. Take a deep breath and breathe and feel what it feels like to know that someone fought for you. Say thank you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you. Breathe. And now let's move into the presence of your body, the vessel that houses your beautiful spirit, that works when you don't ask it to. Your heart beats, your lungs breathe, your belly, your kidneys, they continue doing what they must do to sustain this life for you. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that our bodies are wrong. We are not wrong. Breathe into the body that houses your amazing spirit. Send gratitude to your toes, your belly, your eyelids. Say thank you for this vessel working so hard so that you can be here. And now let's extend from our past through this presence and out towards our future. 7 generations where those who we are fighting for today will call our ancestral names. Your children's children, your nieces' nieces, your nephews' nephews, the children of the future for whom you will be a spiritual guide. Breathe into the truth that you are contributing today to the world that they deserve. Know that you are so much more than this very moment. Breathe. Now that you are sitting in your dignity, in your connection, in your past, present, and future through lines, take a moment to breathe life into your dreams, into the things that you care about most. What are you committed to? What is your yes? We've been conditioned only to think of the no, to live among the limits, the against. But for a moment, breathe into your yes. On the count of 3, breathe. And as the number 9 is the number of completion, we will say together, I am worthy of my yes. Are you ready? 1. I am worthy of my yes. 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 Breathe. We could always see through our belly buttons. We just didn't know what seeing really was before then. We depended on the periscopes in our heads to warn us, to show us, to teach us the good. We walked in the world like defense towers, but that wasn't the real shape of it all. Remember when the person you trusted more than you trusted yourself told you to trust your own gut? The brain below your belly button that was always right underneath the world. Where do you think she got her info? It was the half-blind poets and the beautiful remaining grandmothers who finally taught us to see, to remember, to be. Ashe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mama Nia. That was beautiful and grounding. I am worthy of my yes. I feel such relief
Absolutely.
from that. And I hope that those that participate in this meditation feel as seen and as heard as I do. I feel like the meditation is so resonant with this time because we're going through such an unprecedented election in 2020. We still don't know who is going to be in office, and there is a sense of uncertainty and being uneasy that folks cannot seem to shake. And so I hope that this moment to sit with ourselves and really focus on our worthiness resonates with you all. Before we jump into our conversation about Collective Sun, I want what you are doing outside of meditating, because I know that you do that, during this time to keep yourself grounded and centered.
Yeah. So even though we are also in the midst of a global pandemic, I am doing what I can to be either physically in the presence of people who make me feel loved, or at least talk every day to people who make me feel loved and to people who I love. You know, I call my mom, I call my sister, pretty much every day. I have been drinking warm, creamy lattes and things that make my belly feel really warm. And I've been listening most recently to my time capsule on Spotify. I didn't know about that part of Spotify, and it has been amazing. There's songs that are coming through that I would have never even thought at this point in my life to listen to again. And so it brings me back to a time when I felt good. And so I'm singing at the top of my lungs. You know, like I said earlier, fear, trauma, those things actually exist in our vagus nerve, which is not attached to our brains. You know, I can get scientific. It's not attached to our brains and our brain. It's attached to the brain stem. So it's all the things that we feel in our body. And the only way to get to calming those things is by moving our body. We can't think those things away. And so good food, singing, dancing, laughing, lots of laughter, are the things that help me to move the fears and the anger and all of the things that are existing in this moment through. It's okay for them to be there. We don't want to act like those things can't exist, but we do have tools to help move them when they come up. And so, I have found those tools, and I sing a lot, often off key. Folks in the house just have to deal with it, but it definitely always grounds me when I sing, specifically songs that make me feel good.
Yeah, I feel you. I am the same way. I've been doing a lot of singing, a lot of dancing in my room, just trying to enact joy in such a, a moment that is causing so much harm and hurt for people. And so I almost have to create this little bubble of joy for myself to make everything palpable, because if not, I would feel beaten, broken down, and just forsaken. And I don't want to live in that space.
Right.
I want to be joyful, and I want to stay hopeful, because that is the only way that we're ever going to see any type of change, is if we stay hopeful. If we go to the doom scrolling, which I know we all do, we get in our, our respective social media platforms and scroll for hours and just look at people's opinions and reports and newsletters and all the things that just makes it so hard for you to focus on your joy, because you're looking at the outside world. But you have to find joy in yourself before you can find joy in the world. And that's what I've been focusing on. And joy for me looks like dancing and singing and my family and laughing at funny things. And so I completely resonate with that. And I appreciate you for imparting that. So we are going to start to talk a little bit about Collective Sun. For those who do not know, whoop, whoop, Collective Sun, Reshape the Morning, which is the entire title, is a choreo poem community intervention ritual performance that SpiritHouse created back in 2011.
I mean, the process began around 2008, but the poem that the performance that was fully developed. We had our first performance in 2012.
2012. I think about 2011 because I was in the room in 2011.
Right, as we were doing all of that stuff. It was February 2012. Ironically, sadly, we performed like 1 week after Trayvon Martin was killed. It was poignant and made it, that was where we were scheduled. But yeah, that's how I always remember that it was February of 2012.
Yeah, so I would love to talk a little bit about the history of Collective Sun and all of the iterations, and then a little bit as to why it's still relevant. I know that I can speak toward that too, because in 2018, I directed a remounting of Collective Sun. Yes, I did. And I think that it's important to talk about how Collective Sun is always relevant. I don't think there has ever been a time where, at least since being a assistant stage manager / assistant director to being a director, where I felt like Collective Sun wasn't relevant. And so, yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about the history, the genesis, and where it's traveled and who it's touched over all of these years.
Okay, stop me if I'm too long-winded. So Collective Sun, Reshape the Morning, as Precious said, is a community intervention, choreo, poem, ritual performance. It's about the impact that prison and policing has on the Black community. We began doing work as an organization around the impact of prison actually around 2006. We were working with other community members and organizations here in Durham after we had survived, we were surviving a really incredibly difficult moment that was related to Duke Lacrosse case. Some of you may remember it, some of you may not. it was really difficult to be in Durham at the time when Duke lacrosse players had been accused of raping a Black woman who was a dancer. And there were many of us who were survivors, Black people, queer folks who were survivors of sexual assault. And it was just hard to be here. The language was hard, it was very hateful. And we got together. We formed a coalition called Ubuntu, based on Desmond Tutu's words, I am because we are. And we worked together just to get through that time. We used a lot of, we used art and we used performance, a lot of poems by other people, Audre Lorde, June Jordan. We performed these poems for each other. We did performed at colleges and in our community. We did a lot of things to help us to get through the time. And also because we were trying to talk about what it would mean to build a world without sexual violence. What we didn't know at the time was that there were people who are in our crew who were abolitionists. And I didn't know much at that time about abolishing the prison system. But we were challenged by these leaders who said, yes, we want to do this. We want to end sexual violence in the world, but we want to do it without putting people in cages. Mm. And a lot of us were totally taken aback by that. What do you mean? Like, you know, people who commit these harms, and they were like, but we don't want to put people in cages. We don't want to cause harm. There's another way of looking at community accountability without using cages. And so we had a lot of really difficult conversations around what that meant. But what we understood, and particularly the Black folks who were in that group, many of us had been touched by incarceration. If not not us personally, we had family members who had spent time in prison. We knew how that impacted us, how that loss, how them being away from us impacted us. And so we understood that if we could build a world without cages, that would be the thing to do. And that not having prison, not having cages did not mean that we did not believe in accountability. And so we wanted to be able to have this conversation with our community that says, we understand harm. We understand what kind of intercommunal harms exist. And we also understand and often don't talk about what state harm has done, what the harms of incarceration has done, what happens to a child or a wife when their partner or their father is taken away from them for years. Regardless of what the state says they may have done, this person has someone who loves them. And so we started writing from our own personal perspectives around how prison and incarceration impacted us. For some of us, as I said, it was siblings. For some of us, it was a parent who not only was incarcerated, but then was deported after they finished their prison sentence. For some of us, it was a little cousin. And so we wrote these stories about how incarceration impacted us. And that is where Collective Sun was born. And so it is about a 45-minute performance, choreo poem performance. It's very interactive. We make sure that the audience feels what we feel. And so, for instance, I don't share too much in case we bring it to wherever you are and you get to see it. But, we have people who are portraying throughout the entire performance. There is always someone who is portraying a police officer. Yeah. And they also patrol through the audience. So Collective Sun doesn't just happen on stage. No. And then after that performance, another equally important part is the discussion that happens afterwards. Because what we have found also in our work over the years is when you do these things, when you have these hard conversations, when you bring up these hard things, a lot of times people will go to see a play and they will leave being broken. Not because it wasn't important for them to see it or to experience, but there's often no way for people to move through because we haven't taught them how to move through what has been brought up for them. And so, and because we were performing in a lot of ways for people who looked like us, what we didn't want was for people to leave a theater feeling more broken, more lost by what they had already been experiencing in their life.
Yeah.
So at the end of the play, we have a discussion period. We have sort of a healing period to help to bring people back into their bodies. And we also provide next steps for what you can do. So one year we had postcards in the audience, that we had people fill out their postcards, and we delivered the postcards to an organization that mails books to people who are incarcerated. So these postcards from the performance went out to people who are incarcerated. So it's sort of a three-pronged thing. You experience, you share back, and then you also have a moment to actually act right then and there.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because, just to speak on the relevance, I remember, like I said, I started with the beginning of this production. I think I was in high school and I was the assistant director / assistant stage manager, something of that nature. And I remember actually graduating and being like, and I mean, it's almost like we're in the same time period now, but there was this constant inundation of like Black men dying on my timeline. Like Black people were just dying at the hands of police constantly. And I came to Mama Nia and I was like, I think it's time for us to do Collective Sun again, because this is still relevant and it's still going to impact. And we, I think the beautiful thing about Collective Sun is that we are not looking for the professional theater artist. It's not written for the professional theater artist. Everybody on the cast that I directed was not a professional actor. They had no equity card. Some of them had done a little bit of acting in their, when they were in college. Some of them had never acted at all. And so it was this process, this healing process of identifying like you in the piece. I think the strength about Collective Sun is that you find yourself in there, whether it is you're thinking about your grandmother, you're thinking about your mother's journey, you're thinking about your uncle's journey. There is some piece in this 45-minute, performance that you find yourself in, and it can be healing. It can break you down, but it also brings you up. And the type of care that has to go into, the type of care that has to go into doing something like this is so real. We are not throwing anybody away during this time, especially when you're asking a Black man to really key into the anger that he has towards the system. You cannot let him sit in that by himself, because that is destructive. You have to keep them close to you. You have to create moments of true healing and true care. And I was just so blessed to be able to do that. It was hard. It was not easy at all. But I just found it was so relevant, and I can't wait to see how it shows up in future iterations, because Collective Sun, in my opinion, will always be relevant unless we as a nation make the choice to change the ways in which we look at accountability. And that is a long conversation that I believe all of us are willing to be in and be a part of, especially those who are part of, the Shakespeare Prison Conference, because we are working with those incarcerated communities. We have to really have conversations about what a different accountability system looks like. So the next part I want to ask, and I kind of alluded to this beforehand, and so have you, but like, what about this ritual is healing? What does it do for those that participate, and specifically for the audience? I think about the patrolling that happens and thinking about going to different spaces and people literally yelling at some of the performers who were patrolling the audience and being like, you're not my, you're not my authority. And like, it just took me somewhere. But I just know it's such a participatory piece, from those that are watching it to those that are performing. And so what about those moments outside of the talkback do you feel like is healing?
I think it's healing because we're telling the truth, because people are are seeing their life. And, you know, we always say, we know we're not crazy, you know, but the system has gaslighted us and makes us think that what we feel in our bodies, what we've experienced and what we know isn't real. And so in being able to view and even participate in the performance, audience members who've been impacted by incarceration know that they're not crazy. And that feels healing. And ironically, you know, folks who have not, you know, because we've talked to people afterwards, and, you know, I remember one straight white man in maybe his 50s said after the performance once that he said, well, I just never thought about what it could be like on my Sunday afternoon drive for a Black man. It's like, I just never thought about what other people experience. And I take my Sunday afternoon drives all the time. And so, you know, he thanked us for being able to open his eyes to something even as simple as driving his car. And that was enough for him to begin to think differently about the way that the world is disproportionately harming people of color. And that for me was one of the things that I appreciated the most. A lot of times you go to a performance and, you know, like when you even begin writing, it was like, all right, well, who's your audience? And we were like, everyone. And you can't really, it's hard to create something and see everyone as your target audience and nail that. And, you know, I'm really proud to say that we did, you know, and that people said that. One critique that we had gotten in our very first performance was that we made the police officers seem like they were inhuman, and that actually isn't fair, you know, because we're so opposed to and against what the system has done that we even portrayed all the police officers as not being people. And so we reworked that, and we made sure that we put some humanity into the police officers, still being able to articulate the harm that policing does in our communities and even does to them. Because what parts of their humanity do they have to cut off to do the things that they do? And so I was really glad for that critique, and to be able to even make sure that their humanity was also seen in the performance. And so when we said everybody, we really did mean everybody.
Yeah, I also think about the way that the piece ends. It ends, bless you. It ends with firewater, which is an ode to yourself, and really understanding that you as a person were not a mistake. Regardless of what the world tells you, you were not a mistake. And so it ends in this holistic, caring way that after you've been taken through this journey of seeing your trauma, you know, and right in front of you, it ends in this way that reminds you and affirms you that you are meant to be in this world for a reason. And there are people out there who cared about you, and that's why you were here. I love that piece. I feel like it is the perfect way to round out that moment, because it just brings so much comfort to those that may have been taken through, you know, a traumatic, not traumatic experience, but a visceral experience while watching the piece. So I want to move on to the next question. And you spoke a little bit about epigenetics and, you know, trauma being in your system, things that you can't control, you know? And so what are your thoughts around art being used as a healing mechanism? I mean, we're a part of a Shakespeare, you know, we're doing this for a Shakespeare in Prison conference, which means that those that are practitioners are using art as a healing mechanism in these spaces. So what are your thoughts around that? And for SpiritHouse, how have you seen that manifest in other ways outside of Collective Sun?
Well, as I said early on, yes, science is now caught up to what we already know, which is that trauma lives in our bodies and that we carry the traumas of our ancestors. We also carry their joy and we carry their freedom. So, we want to be clear about that, but that actually our DNA, there are things in our DNA markers that turn on and off based on the traumas that exist in our bodies when we're born. And as I said, our vagus nerve is not attached to our brains. It's not attached to our thinking conscious brains. It's attached to our brainstem. And so the way to begin to heal from any of those things is through the body. And art, of course, takes us into our bodies. Anyone who's watching this, who is an artist, knows what it feels like to create something. It allows us to be more imaginative. It allows us to think differently, to think of things that defy what exists. And that's what we need if we're going to heal ourselves individually and heal our communities. We need permission to dream. So often we're not given permission to dream. And the only spaces that we're giving those permission to is like art spaces, because, people see it as like something fun to do and something extracurricular. They don't necessarily take it seriously, which is something that we're trying to change. When you have a conference sometimes or go to a march or a protest, they bring in the poet almost as we say, we're not your side piece, is how we describe it. Like, we are a part of creating the new world. The new world cannot happen without the role of the artists. So it's really, really, really important for us to understand and to even force ourselves into the spaces of creating the world that we all deserve. We open up the space for creativity and for healing. There's so many times that we can't put down into words the things that we feel. But as I said, singing a song helps you move something, helps that feeling to come out, even if you can't articulate it in your own words. Picking a paintbrush or writing something down is very powerful. And because of the things that folks are dealing with, in particular, folks who have the courage and the will to do the work that you all do with people who are incarcerated, it's important for you to be thinking about how what you bring to the table can be healing for the people that you work with. People who are incarcerated often no one has told them that they have the right to heal. No one has told them, because what people have told them is that you did something wrong, you got what you deserve to be here. And I haven't been told that they have the right to heal, even from what caused them to cause the harm, if that's what happened, because we also know a lot of people are incarcerated who absolutely are innocent. But we don't do an either or. The bottom line is that everyone has the right to heal. Everyone has the right to heal. And so we use art to facilitate that. And it works. It works. It takes time because people are not used to that kind of access. Sometimes people don't believe that they need that. So we don't necessarily talk about it in that way. We just do. We just do things. We just invite people into a process. And then they get to decide what it does or has done for them. We're really, really patient. We begin really, really small. We don't try to tap right into somebody's feelings because there's a lot there. And And we don't do anything without permission, without full permission. We don't, we believe in consent. And so we don't try to open up some sort of space where people can just let it out when they haven't consented to being there or for that to be the purpose of that time that we're with them. Mm-hmm. And so all of that is really important, but we understand how powerful art is. And so we are careful with how we use it. So, you know, the piece that I shared at the very beginning of my doing the Where I'm From, you know, by the time you finish writing everything, you've got a poem. Mm-hmm. But we don't go into a room and say, we're going to write a poem right now. Because folks are like, I don't do that. I don't want to do that. But when we have them just talk about who they are and where they're from and both what they've been through, what brings them joy and what has been a struggle, at the end of it, you got a poem. You know, you can take one line from each poem and then write a collective poem. Mm-hmm. And folks, by the end of it, are like, wow, we really did this. And so, yeah, we don't always say that we use we do say that we use our art, but we don't enter a room being like, and it's art therapy time. Mm-hmm. Because that's not always what people want to hear. And like I said, people don't always consent to the healing practices because they don't know that they deserve them. And so a big goal is to just help people to breathe into the fact, to understand that we all have a right and we all deserve healing.
That is super real. There's going to be a lot of healing that has to come from the time that we are in. Mm-hmm. And my hope is that those that are in art are given the space and the time to really heal. I mean, this is me being a dreamer, right? Heal the nation, because we're gonna need the artists.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking this time out, especially during such an uncertain time, to talk with us and to have a conversation about Collective Sun, about healing, giving us a meditation to sit with that we can sit with through these next 4 months that we have in this conference. I love that this is a moment to come back to when we are feeling persecuted or just needing a moment to really ground ourselves. So thank you so much, Mama Nia. I love you.
I love you.
And we will complete this session by showing a 20-minute video that was actually produced for SpiritHouse about Collective Sun. So you'll be able to see pieces of that through that video, as well as exemplifying the community care that SpiritHouse does oh so well at their home base in Durham, North Carolina. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great evening.
So SpiritHouse is rich culture. It's mamas and ladies on porches. It's alchemy. It's first breath and recovering first breath. SpiritHouse is
We're really looking forward to reading your round 2 applications, and we so appreciate the time you're taking to put into them. Let us know if you have questions. Let us know how we can support you.
Maya has been with us for 10 years. I don't even like to use the word that like mentorship, because I learn as much from Maya as Maya has learned from me.
That was the very end of the Roddenberry second round fellowship. webinar. Oh, and I'm missing happy birthday. I think I'm singing happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya.
And I'm in this moment of really intentionally lighting the torches for the younger folks who have been a part of the organization now for at least 6 years. You know, I'm like big vision. I'm like, and we're gonna do this, and this is what the world is gonna look like, and this is what everybody's gonna do. And she's like, well, what are the steps to get there?
I've been with the organization as long as Harm-Free Zone has actually been online. So Harm-Free Zone is about to hit 10 years. Harm-Free Zone is training, it's a book study, and it's direct action work. And before all of those things got like clear and like written up, it was this idea about what would it take to abolish policing in prisons, and could that come from like a community model? Safety is freedom, enough of everything. Safety is no strikes, you're out. Safety is knowing that someone else is there who will assist. Safety is being seen. Safety is connection. Safety is knowing who your people are.
I don't feel like I can use any other word but warrior for my lifestyle. From then until now, it's been a lot of fighting, and it's been a lot of senseless fighting. And I wasn't fighting for the right cause. I was just fighting because. Now I feel like I'm fighting for a cause. And that's to help my peers be aware of our voice.
People who've come through, whether it's the book study or Harm-Free Zone, we still believe in the community member, the person or the people who are most affected by oppression, to be the authority of their own story.
And send us a text that says ready to fight. Put your name on it too.
So we bring you all together not only to talk about the expungement or the certificate of relief that you may be eligible for, but we bring folks together so we can start building a movement. Because see, we the only ones who gonna make this change for us. Can't nobody do this for us but us. And so I'm encouraging folks to join us in this fight.
To now use someone like that as a healer, as a bridge builder between harm doer and the person who was harmed is really powerful, because they can bring a whole new perspective towards promoting community cohesion.
I didn't know how worse I was making my community. You know what I mean? Like, man, I didn't realize that until I came to the folks of SCSJ Fate and Spirit House. And then on top of it, I feel like this is more gangster than anything, huh? Yeah. Really? You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, bro, I'll be in the city council building, and I'll be like, the police be over there. I'll be like, I don't trust them. I don't want them in our neighborhoods. We don't rock with them. I feel like it's more G than everything.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, to their face.
To their face, yeah.
Y'all know what y'all doing in my community. Y'all know what y'all be doing to us young black men. I don't rock with y'all.
Damn, y'all! I was just 16! That foolishness is not supposed to follow you for the rest of your life!
So Collective Sun first mounted in 2012. I don't think that there was ever a moment when Collective Sun was not necessary between then and now.
Beat down and kill is beat down and kill. Freedom fighter, drug dealer, or degree, they're coming for me regardless. And I ain't giving them no ammunition.
They're coming for all of us, Matthias. Silence don't make you safe.
I never really realized how impactful art was until I did Collective Sun in 2012. And I saw the effect that that play had specifically on the audience, and how I realized that you don't necessarily have to be protesting in the street to still have an opinion, and to have an impactful opinion, and to have an impact on the communities around you.
You don't live in this hood where niggas is trying to survive. How many white boys you arrest today, huh? I'll see you in court.
Precious, who has been a part of Spirit House since she was in middle school, graduated from Syracuse in the theater this past May. She said, I would like to direct Collective Sun while I'm in Durham, and hopefully when I leave, I can actually take it with me and we can actually do it, in other parts of the country.
Of course, this play is a series of vignettes, but again, it's when we really focus on the policing of the Black man.
Don't run. Don't speak. Don't reach. No such thing as routine. Lower my eyes. Lower my voice. Life or death, I have no choice.
It is a play because people turn into different characters, but for the Black body that's performing it, what they need to internalize is that this is also real life and this is your experience. And if it's not your experience, it's your mama's experience or your uncle's experience or your grandfather's experience. And I think that keys into the transformative piece of what Collective Sun can be, because we tend to shut off things as Black people. We just try to remove ourselves from the things that are hurtful instead of facing them head on. And Collective Sun doesn't give you that opportunity to dismiss it, because you then embody something that you maybe are on a daily basis or something that you have seen regularly.
Our friend Maya Hunter has just been arrested on Alston Avenue.
Halloween night, we get pulled over and I get illegally arrested.
They're booking her on resisting arrest. They asked to search her car and she didn't consent. So some of us are going to go down there and just be with her and see what's going on.
And what happens is when it's going down, I put out a call. Like, I'm like freaking out. We're both freaking out. And I call Mama Nia. I think I called her first.
Well, Vic and Maya have been arrested. We're at the jail.
So all these folks literally trail the police car to the county jail downtown. They have filled up the lobby of the county jail and like are just waiting and like basically have like staged the sit-in, waiting for me and him to get out. I came out first. It was like all these folks standing out, and I'm like, I'm a little shattered. Like, I'm crying. Somehow they've gotten my mom, my aunt is there, Mary and Joseph are there, and they happen to be lesbians, and it's really crazy.
Tia's at home with her man voice calling everybody. Tia and her man voice.
I can't even remember what day it was. I just remember the harm-free zone happened on Tuesday nights. And so we're rolling into Tuesday and I'm one of the facilitators and I'm like, what do we do after this? Like, we've been talking about this.
Conflict is Maya and Vic. From there, Maya called Rachel and my mother.
We've been talking about how community can like respond and how they can like hold their own and how do you like face the police, because it seems like an impossible thing, right? Like they literally snatched me back from the jail and we had to have a conversation like, where do you even begin? How did that happen?
The immediate healing of someone having to unlock that door, you don't even have your shoelaces in yet, you just went through hell. And to open a door and see community there to support you, to heal you, to say, hey, we got you. Don't even worry about it. Let's just get you home. Let's get some rest and let's work on this healing. I'm here for you. I think there's so many young brothers who go through that process by themselves. We get back there, we get on the phone, we call our own bondsman, we say, yo, I got it, just come get me. And then when we get through that door, we gotta go right back to a cycle of a system to get this bread up, we don't even have time to think about the pain until years later, till you meet a group like this. And it's just like, I didn't even realize how much pain I was in because I never had this embracement of purity, love. This, to me, it was nothing but love.
Breathe. Hush. Hush.
Collective Sun causes visceral reactions.
grandmama, and I named you after your great-grandma.
We have a scene about giving birth in shackles and chains. Until you're fully dilated, you don't get your chains taken off of you, which is crazy because you're going through contractions, you know, for that whole period of time in shackles.
Your time is up.
No, please, just 5 minutes more, please.
Hand it over, now.
Let her go. You have to let her go.
We know this. And, you know, we made a choice to use this piece to take people right to the very edge. Right to the very edge. So that we could talk about the full truth and then envision something different.
We grow these precious jewels here. You can't have them!
It brings up feelings and thoughts and mentalities that I have learned to put in a compartment for the sake of survival. How do you know you have a mask on? And that mask is protective. That mask has helped me survive a lot of things. And it was also killing me.
I remember the stories. Black women giving birth naked on the decks of slave ships.
You know, my mother used to be spit on as she was walking to school by white kids on a bus riding by her. They had to become shells of themselves in many ways in order to survive. And that type of survival and that type of sacrifice has certainly created a currency for me and certainly the new generation to be freer, to be fearless in comparison, and to not just survive, but to live and to take it, to claim it.
Has it really always been this way? Let me tell you what it's like to mother a black man.
It is for my mother. It's for my grandmother. And it's for my son, it's for me, it's for everybody who's felt like they're nothing. Even though you know on the inside that you're everything.
When we made you, we pressed oil out of banana leaves onto our thirsty backs.
You came because the farmer's market sells the sweetest onions and the biggest knots of ginger.
Collective Son is a very powerful thing. And I love the way we ended because we ended with what we are, right? And that I see you and I love you. You're not a mistake. You're not a mistake.
So why is it your story? How is it your story? It's my story because I have fears for my little brothers that I never had for me and my sister growing up. It's my story because the work we do has me facing it every day, and it doesn't get any easier, and there's no stopping, there's no rest for the ache and the pain that it creates in your chest.
Spirit House is home and dialogue and debate and fights and knowing that you're not going to get thrown away for any reason, for any action. Spirit House is home.
All right, what up, Bull City? I told you I was going to do it. I did it. It's done. I voted. Got my sticker. Encouraging my community members to go out there and vote, man. Get your voice heard. Let's put the right judge and the right DA in office, man. Bring our boys home. I like that. That was a one shot, one kill deal right there. That's a one shot, one kill.
We are dancing up the street. We're dancing up the mountain, we're dancing up the mountain, we're dancing up the time.